Good night, viewers, and welcome to this another program, Advancing the Cause. This program comes to you every Wednesday night from 6:30 to 8 o'clock. The official host of this program is the Honorable Coretta McDonald, AA, MP, and General Secretary of the Guyana Teachers Union. Because of another engagement, Coretta McDonald cannot be here for this program. Therefore, I wish to tender an apology for her absence. My name is Dennis Jaikran, and I'm hosting the program tonight for her. The topic tonight is The Truth Be Told, and this is part 3. The Truth Be Told, part 3. Part 1 of this program would have commenced some 2 weeks ago when we were at the funeral service of the late Genevieve Whitehead. And so those of us who spoke at that funeral service, we titled our presentation there as part of this program, The Truth Be Told, Part 1. Last Wednesday, when Comrade McDonald was on this program, it was part 2 of the program or the topic, The Truth Be Told. And so this week we are dealing with The Truth Be Told, part 3. And so I wish to say to you, I'm going to give you the order in which this program is going to be done tonight. And then I'm going to make a few opening remarks before I get into the program proper. So the program tonight, the areas that we are going to touch on would be education matters, and that would be a number of matters or issues we are going to deal with under education. We are going to look at the failure of state enforcement agencies to perform legal and constitutional duties. We are going to touch on a few health issues, and then we are going to deal with a number of general issues. Before I go into the education issues, I want to advise our viewers that between programs, that is from one Wednesday to the other Wednesday, we are overwhelmed with suggestions and information from all cross sections of persons in every region of this country. And it is not only we are receiving these pieces of information from teachers and public officers, but persons who would have been retired and all other public officers in this country, even private citizens. And for this and to them, from us this way at this program, we extend our sincere gratitude and thanks for providing us with this information. And because of the viewers and because of the contribution, and this is not financial contribution, the contribution I'm talking about is the information that is sent to us. We use it on this program. And to the viewers, we want to say how grateful and how thankful we are. So as we commence this program tonight, I want to first of all express, on behalf of this program, our sincere condolences to the family of the late Allan Monro, an educator, a trade unionist, a community advocate, a politician, and many, many more areas that this great man, Comrade Allan Monro, would have made inroads in. And so Comrade Monro was adequately qualified while he served as the then Deputy Chief Education Officer, Technical. And so I remind you that he was adequately qualified for that position because he studied in England. He came back to Guyana with a degree in civil engineering, and he was well placed based on his qualification. I want to strongly believe that he was, at any time in the Ministry of Education, the most professional, the most friendly, the most qualified Deputy Chief Education Officer, Technical. But let me give you a situation. Once upon a time, when I served as Regional Education Officer, we met in those days for 3 days. And on a particular day in these 3 days, different officers of the Ministry of Education, other ministries, the Teaching Service Commission, the Guyana Teachers Union, would come and make their presentation. And I give you a situation which is very, very unprofessional. We were at Ensord at a Redos meeting. And the then Chief Education Officer, I'm not making any reference to Comrade Monro, but I do not want to call the name of this person who would have been pitchforked into the position of Deputy Chief Education Officer, was introduced to us. And when this gentleman, and I give him this status for now, would have been introduced to us, he had on a white t-shirt, colorless t-shirt, so to speak. It appeared to be white, but very dingy, so to speak. His hair on his head was not properly groomed. He himself was not properly groomed. And we turned around to each other and we asked ourselves if this is the gentleman that has been introduced as the Deputy Chief Education Officer, Technical. I am making this because I need to make the comparison of a very professional, outstanding, and distinguished person, the late Comrade Allan Monro, as against this person that would have been introduced to us as a Deputy Chief Education Officer. And so I had to make that comparison because it is important for us. But not only at that level, Comrade Monro contributed to the education system. He was very instrumental in the organization and planning for the establishment of President's College, an outstanding college, President's College. And note well that his contribution to President's College enabled this country to perform at a very high level. In those days, in the education system. And so Comrade Monro was very, very active in the trade union movement. And because he was active, he encouraged those who were in service at that time in the Ministry of Education to be involved in the trade union movement. And so again, his contribution to trade unionism in Guyana is outstanding. And may I say that from all the records that are there, that he would have been the longest serving regional chairman of Region 4. And maybe by extension, he would have been the longest serving regional chairman in this country, in any region in this country, so to speak. And so his contribution would have been overwhelming and made significant inroads into education. He also served as the permanent secretary as the Ministry of Education. And so I give this background of the late Allan Monro because very many people are not aware of the many contributions he would have made to the education system, to the trade union movement in this country, to politics, to social life, to community development, and a whole host of things. And again, I want on behalf of this program to express our sincere condolences to the family of the late Allan Monro. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Last Sunday, we had a very tragic incident in this country. And we lost two of our young persons at one of those creeks on the Linden-Soesdijk Highway. And to the family of these two young persons, this program again, we want to express our sincere gratitude, condolences rather, to the family of those two children. May their souls also rest in peace. And I want to advise our parents and our young people as we venture out into these recreational events and activities, we should be very careful and be very mindful and very protective, and to always cause ourselves to be very safe. I want to turn very quickly on another contribution that Comrade Allan Monro would have made, and I'm dealing with education matters also, the Teaching Service Commission, of which he served as chairman. Once he served as chairman of that commission, we saw the level of integrity, the level of fairness, the level of professionalism that one would expect from the Teaching Service Commission. And he did justice during that period he served as chairman. But what is happening now, presently? We have a Teaching Service Commission that is very fragile, so to speak, very one-sided, so to speak. And so I say this to indicate to you that it is alleged that a member or members of the Teaching Service Commission, and I repeat, it is alleged that they are soliciting, or the member is soliciting, applications to fill vacancies in schools that do not exist. Let me repeat, to fill vacancies in schools that do not exist. And so what is happening? And these are all allegations. It would have come to us at this program, and we are of the opinion that we should make it known to the public. And I said to you that we should make it known because we kept repeating on this program of a situation of a particular district education officer, one who was appointed district education officer, two, boasted about that before the appointment, because that district education officer had a relative, very close relative, as alleged, at the Public Service Commission. And it did happen. And so this is another situation we are putting to the public and the viewers as alleged. And so this particular applicant, it is told, wrote 17 subjects, received 4 grade 1, 7 grade 2, 5 grade 3, 1 grade 4, mathematics grade 3, and English grade 4. Sorry, grade 2. I'm indicating this to you because it is the expectation that based on the allegation that there are arrangements to have this person being employed in the teaching service. Whereas it is alleged that we have persons with more or even less subjects, 10 and more, with better grades, so to speak, grades 1 and 2 in English and maths, grade 1 and English and maths. And so they were told by the particular Department of Education that there are no vacancies. Yet this member of the Teaching Service Commission is alleged, is making arrangement, allegedly, to have this person, because we are told that the mother of this applicant is a head teacher of a nursery school. And because of that, an influence is there. But it was further told and allegedly that this same head teacher would have been caught on camera shoplifting at two what you call these things, man, when you go and then you buy and then you pay, supermarkets. It is alleged. It is further alleged that when this same head teacher was a student at the Cyril Potter College of Education and would have been involved in writing her final examination, it is alleged that she was caught cheating. And what was that cheating? When she was caught, it is alleged that notes, she wrote notes on her body parts and she was engaged in that notes during that final examination. It is alleged. Why I am giving you this background is because we have to be able to consider situation when we allow people to come in the teaching service. And so I want to bring this to the attention of the viewing public rather, because it is alleged that these things are going to soon happen, as happened with the appointment of that DEO too. Further alleged that applications go to this particular member of the Teaching Service Commission. And this member of the Teaching Service Commission goes to the Department of Education. And maybe the REDO is so fearful, or because the REDO might be part of this arrangement, quickly signs on that there's a vacancy, whereas there's no vacancy. So I am calling out whoever might have to do that, because it is extra burden on the education system to have overstaffed schools. So I'm calling out whoever it is to have that. So we want to take you to another situation. And this one also, it is alleged that at a particular technical institute where board members were not paid stipend, that the chairman of the board and sub-members thought it fit to do a fundraising activity in the form of a barbecue so that they allegedly paid themselves stipend. That is money collected, I want to believe, under false pretense. And once it would have been used to do that payment, and once there is some record existing somewhere, I am calling out the coordinator of the school board secretariat and the auditor general to look at this situation, because it is alleged. And once it is alleged, there's need for us to be able, as members of the public, to know what is happening. Recently, the principal of a certain technical institute had an assignment, or is now assigned to the Ministry of Education. And so the deputy principal would have been proposed to be performing the duties as, or to act as, principal. But here comes the story. It is alleged that the head of the Human Resource Committee of the board indicated that the deputy principal that should be proposed should be the most qualified person on the staff. And if that is so, it is what we call supersession. But let me explain so that our viewers would have a better understanding of how senior acting appointment is being done. Once there is that vacancy, like in this case, in the first place, it was done well that the deputy principal, who was the most senior, would have been proposed to perform or to act as principal. Therefore, in this case, the most senior lecturer, because there's a position like senior lecturer, the most senior lecturer should be proposed to be performing the duties or act as deputy. And so I want to advise whoever is that chairman of the Human Resource Committee of that particular institute, please ensure that when you seek guidance from somebody that is quite aware of personnel matters. And if by chance there is supersession, it can happen, but it can only happen if the person that is next in line would have been so asked to perform just such duties in writing and would have declined in writing that they do not want to perform such duties. Then the other person in line, the cycle would go through, and whoever is the person in line who would have agreed to that, then that person is going to be proposed. And then on that form, that senior acting appointment form, there's a place for supersession. Supersession, yes or no. And if it is yes, you take yes, and then you explain. The form is clear about that. And then you explain that the person in line would have declined, the letter is attached, and therefore this person is now proposed. I want to say to us on this program that there are very many wrong things happening in the education system. And the chairperson and the composition of many of these school boards are questionable because they do not understand very many personnel matters. They do not understand financial regulations. They do not have that idea of how a school or an institute is managed. And they are helping to destroy and break down the system. And the school board secretariat sits idly by, the coordinator, so to speak, and I want to believe, not given any guidance. And this might be that the same, whoever is the coordinator, might not have a knowledge of any of these personal matters, these professional matters, and these financial matters. And therefore, it is only fitting that we say to you that right now, that is a situation and scenario at a particular technical institute. I want to deal quickly about this agreement signed by the Guyana Teachers Union. And I'm going to say that it is alleged that there are the insignificant Big Five supported the call to sign the questionable agreement. Let me repeat so that we can better understand it. It is alleged that there is an insignificant Big Five supported the call to sign the questionable agreement. It is further alleged that this insignificant Big Five of them, it is alleged that two would have had administrative appointments. And so, what are administrative appointments? There are appointments made without having any public advertisement for any competition or any scoring or assigning of scores, and based on the scores, to have the most eligible person being appointed. This is not the case in administrative appointment. It is an agreed position by either the school board secretariat or the Teaching Service Commission. And in this case, I understand it is alleged that one would have been the Teaching Service Commission and one would have been the school board. I'm bringing these things as alleged to us so that we can better understand why is it and how is it that questionable agreement between the Guyana Teachers Union and the Ministry of Education would have been signed. And so it is also alleged that two of the Big Five, the questionable Big Five, so to speak, would have received or are receiving contracts from the government. It is alleged. It is further alleged that these same two that are getting contracts are also or would have also received state lands. Maybe in some region, I don't know. That information didn't come to us. And it is further alleged that another one of the Big Five that signed that questionable agreement would have been given a government of Guyana scholarship, allegedly, and further alleged that that person would have been identified, allegedly, to be the next director of ENSO. So we are bringing these things to you because we are quite aware that since school would have reopened, this program would have received hundreds of calls from our teachers across the 10 regions of this country, saying how dissatisfied they are with that percentage as given to them in the increase in salary. And so they are very peeved and worried and troubled. And some would have indicated boldly to us that they feel that they were sold, they were deceived, and because of that, it is a trust situation now between the Guyana Teachers Union and its members. And this is a very serious situation. And they have indicated once there is betrayal one time, betrayal can be there for a second time. And so our teachers would have indicated to us that they are very upset because of this agreement, that they, in the first place, would have been consulted to go on protest or strike. And the second instance, they were not contacted to call off the strike or protest. And in the third instance, they were not contacted to agree upon whatever percentage would have been given. So right now they are saying that they have a trust issue with the leadership, not all, some of the members of the leadership, maybe as indicated early on, the big five in the leadership of the Guyana Teachers Union. And therefore, we thought it best that since they would have expressed these conditions, these situations, we must bring it to the attention of the viewers. 2 weeks ago, some of the schools in this region, rather this country, reopened. And when I spoke the last time on this program, I give you numbers as it relates to how many secondary schools, how many primary schools, and how many nursery schools were not in readiness for the reopening of school. And lo and behold, the Ministry of Education, by the Friday of that week or the Saturday, they release a list. And lo and behold again, and this is not alleged, this is what would have happened on the ground. That list, as sent out by the Ministry of Education, it was far more than that number of schools that were not in readiness for the reopening of schools. And to date, some of those schools are still not in readiness for reopening. 2 weeks would conclude this Friday. And so this is very bad planning on the part of the departments of education in this country, the regional administrations in these regions, and the monitoring of the Ministry of Education's works or buildings department, whatever, or engineering department, whatever they call it. And this appears to be the situation term after term, year after year, and the conditions are not improving. And our teachers are suffering, our children are suffering. And so what would have happened? Once these schools would have reopened, our teachers would have indicated to us across this country, and we are not speaking here with water in our mouth. We are speaking here based on facts and what we know because we get this feedback from our teachers and community members. So these are the observations they would have made, that some schools are still not reopened. I said that earlier. That is, there is severe shortage of pieces of furniture for both our learners and our teachers. That there are very many pieces of broken furniture in our schools. That there is poor and inadequate sanitary facilities, an important element of school life. No drinking water, no running water, broken stairways, leaking roofs, and the list is far more than I would have read to you just now. But I extracted and submitted to us the main areas. And so our teachers and our learners are in a very poor learning environment. And once that poor learning teaching environment does not exist, then it is posing a serious problem on the delivery of the curriculum at the nursery, primary, and secondary level. And so I'm now calling out the Minister of Education, the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, the Chief Education Officer, and the insignificant Big Five of the Guyana Teachers Union to tell this nation where the billions of dollars as appropriated by the National Assembly for education delivery is going. Taxpayers' money, state money, and the Auditor General, I am calling out you at this stage and your officers to look at this situation. By the way, as I'm dealing with education now, and you notice that at the beginning of this program, I spoke about President's College. I want to touch on President's College once more. And I'm deliberately doing this because of two reasons. You see what I'm wearing tonight? I'm wearing a purple shirt because this is the dress code or the color for President's College. And secondly, why I'm wearing it tonight, I want somebody to see where Teixeira is and where Egel is. Tell them I am on this program advancing the cause, and I have on a shirt, a color that they do not like, but they can still look at me and see the color of this shirt. Tag Teixeira and tag Egel because they do not like the color of this shirt that I have. It's my shirt, and I have to like it. They can choose not to like the shirt, or they can choose not to like the color of the shirt, but tag them, let them see it. So let us come to President's College. When President's College was established, it was established as a school of excellence. And so the cohorts of that school would have been those who would have written the National Grade 6 assessment. And there was no award system for President College. It was an offered system. So those schools that would have been awarded would have been Queen's College and all, apart from President's College. And so the students who were placed there, or who would have been assigned there, were offered places. So do you see the difference between an award system and an offered system? And so that gave rise to the first 1 or 2% of the high flyers. And so the program there at President's College permitted them and allowed them to be able to be in dormitories. Excellent dormitories in those days. Excellent conditions of living in those days. And those conditions would have since fallen apart. And right now, last week, I had an opportunity to go to President's College to look at the dorms, the agricultural facilities, the classroom, and all the other facilities. And it is a shame to know the condition in which President's College is in at this time. And because of that, I am calling out the Minister of Education, the Permanent Secretary, and the Chief Education Officer to look at what is happening at President's College, a declining standard. And mind you, I am coming later on this program to deal with the mathematics intervention that the Minister of Education spoke about yesterday and the Chief Education Officer, and that circular that the Chief Education Officer sent out. I'm going to deal with that just now so that viewers can understand what is happening in this country. So, excuse me. There are a number of turning of sods for the construction of schools. And before the turning of sods for the construction of schools, there are a number of things that ought to happen. And these things never happen. There would have been no public advertisement for these contracts. Right? And so they did not follow the procurement procedures. And they are clearly outlined in the guidelines for procurement, the Procurement Act. And those things are stated in the Procurement Act. The procedures were not followed, but yet they keep turning suds. This is the time they are saying that so many schools are to be constructed, secondary schools, with millions of dollars, billions of dollars. And this is the month of August. So by the time you are ready to sign that contract, it is going to be October. By the time you are ready to mobilize for the construction, it is going to be November. And when you start that construction for a 2024 appropriated sum, it is going to go on to 224, 225. And so they are not going to only use that same money, but they are going to come back to us for new money. I'm asking, because we are going to keep an eye on that, on all these projects that are delayed in terms of the signing and the amount of money. And so we want to bring this to the attention of the public and for them to better understand that these things are not properly organized. And since they are not properly organized, we need to call out those persons who are involved to be able to say to us something. Now, the Ministry of Education, they have a circular which says increase to the regional inventory of officers. And for each region, there is a circular dated the 31st of July. I am told that there would have been some advertisement for these positions. Some would have been shortlisted. Many would not have been called for interviews, but some would have been appointed. And those who would have been appointed, it is told to us, and it is alleged they are not adequately and properly qualified for that position. Hence, some would have been appointed. It might be a good thing if the Ministry of Education can say to the taxpayers of this country how many persons were shortlisted, how many were not called for interviews as shortlisted, why they were not called, and why those persons who would have been interviewed were not called, and for those who were not called but would have been appointed, there is need for an explanation to the Guyanese public. I have here in my hand, I'm sorry I didn't get the operator to look at this. This is a photograph of one of the appointees that is not adequately qualified. But if you see that he is in company with, and this brochure is titled Friends, Families, and Favorites. And you have here a tick which says competent by association. You see, what is the qualification? Competent by association. So we need to call out right now the minister and for her to say what she is doing as it relates to the appointment of these persons here that are not adequately qualified for this district education officer one position in this country in what you call nursery, primary, secondary, TVET, literacy center. So there is need for an explanation of that in this country. So this here that you call here the increase of regional inventory of education officers is a farce. And so we need to take a look at that in this very situation as we are dealing with it. There is something we call, and we are going to continue with this. It says here denial. But in the first instance tonight, it is just a brief. And the first person we want to make mention of on this denial is the late Genevieve Whitehead that was denied being appointed a chief education officer of this country. An indictment on the part of those who are responsible. And there are plans ahead to have a number of persons sidelined or denied promotion, or they are threatened to be transferred, or we've been transferred and resigned. And I'm going to give you the names of these persons so that when anything would have happened, you would have heard that their names would have been called on this program for discrimination in any way or any. Here are the names: Carol Ben, Marcia Paddy, Oslin Caesar, Carlin Daniels, Eglin, and Member of Parliament Dinesh Jaiprashad, who we are told and very well believe that he was being threatened to be transferred to Region 8, and it is alleged that the Chief Education Officer might have had a discussion or discourse with him and said to him, when he indicated that he wanted to go back in the school system, that he should not do that. The Chief Education Officer is going to make all arrangements for him to remain in Region 6. So we are getting this program is giving you this bit of information. So if by chance there is any level of discrimination, then there is need for you to better understand why is it these things happen. I want to deal with this question of teaching of mathematics in secondary schools and secondary departments of primary school. There is a circular in the form of a memo from the Chief Education Officer dated the 28th of August 2024. 28th of August 2024. By constructed as it is, 16 points. If I were the Chief Education Officer of this country, and somebody would have said, I would have written this memo, and I saw it, then I would have been shamed to be the Chief Education Officer. He cannot, and I've made mention of it, cannot write a simple memo. And so yesterday they launched what is known as a pilot program project to improve CSEC mathematics performance. And a number of things would have been said in this release here. And so I want to make mention of a particular part of this, the very first paragraph of this release, and it says, the Ministry of Education on Tuesday launched, that is yesterday, a teachers college pilot project to improve CSEC mathematics grades with a stern, listen to this part, with a stern warning that underperforming teachers would be removed. So it is a threat to, as reported, I am saying as is reported by both the minister and the chief education officer, if what is reported here is what they said in terms of threatening our teachers, Stern warning is a threat that underperforming teachers would be removed. The Guyana Teachers Union, more particularly Big Five, as allegedly mentioned before, should take heed of this and to come forward and make some statement as it relates to this. But let me say that the Ministry of Education would have been a total failure as it relates to the grades that our children are receiving, that the National Grade 6 Assessment in Mathematics and CSEC. And so why they are failing? Let us go to CSEC. That launch of that project yesterday is not going to help. You do not correct something at the final stage. And I don't think the Minister of Education or the Chief Education Officer or any senior officer of the Ministry of Education, any of them have a clue of what education delivery is all about. And so where do we start from? I'm giving them some advice. You start to make this particular correction from the nursery school level. You ought to create that condition. Then you go to the primary, and then you go to the secondary, because it is told that 75 or 80% of learning would have already taken place by grade 1 or 2. And all that is happening thereafter is unfolding of that knowledge at different levels in different situations. So that is the psychological part of it. And so they better need to understand that. And so once you would have established that psychological part of it, then you ought to deal with the methodology to allow that learning to unfold itself. And then you have to deal with what you call the 5 ways of mastering new knowledge. And these are things you have to inculcate in our teachers at the nursery, primary, and secondary level. And I repeat, the 5 ways of mastering new knowledge. Once you would have established that, then you are in good grounds to start your planning at the nursery level, the primary level, and at the secondary. But you do not go to the secondary level at what you call Form 4 and Form 5 or the grade 10 and 11 to make. No, that is not correction. That is not remedial correction. It is not going to help. And so they need to look at, first of all, if you are correcting CSEC, take our markers of mathematics at CSEC, bring them together, let them do, because they are doing online marking now, let them give you what are their experiences, and then let them come up with a plan of action to deal with the different areas that they see that our students are not performing well in. And when they would have done that, don't worry at this stage at all. With NSORD, and apart from 1% exam division, don't worry those 2 sections. NSORD is a waste of time. Exams division apart from 1 person is a total waste of time. And I'm coming to that. So we need to look at this. We need to look firmly at both our formative and our summative methods of evaluation. And when we would have done that, then we need to add to that plan of action. We need to also engage meaningfully our subject committee in mathematics and permit them and allow them to be able to do that level of planning. Don't worry, NSORD. I'm sorry that I'm repeating, don't worry, NSORD. they are definitely a waste of time. I understand whoever is the director now is also a waste of time. And it pains and hurts those of us who came out of education to know where education is. And I'm not flying my flag myself. Ask the people in Region 3 when I was regional executive officer. I met with the Redo or staff and the head teachers, and I worked out. And so the Minister of Education can go and see the performance of our students in mathematics in that year of 2016, 17, and 18. And they can know that level. The teachers there can say, because there was that contact. And as regional executive officer, a former regional education officer, a former principal of 2 technical institutes, I worked with them and they were able to rise to that level. But you can check their results for yourself, CEO. And so we need to look at the review of the program from nursery to secondary. We need to take cognizance of what this table of specification is all about. Are we putting that in place? Are we in contact with the Caribbean Examination Council? Is the council doing these kinds of evaluation to permit us to better understand how is it we ourselves structure our table of specification? The level of questioning based on the table of specification, the knowledge, the comprehension, the application, the synthesis, the analysis, and the evaluation. Are we teaching our children how is it they can be able to answer the recall or knowledge question, how they should answer the comprehension questions, how they should answer application question, how is it they are able to analyze situations, how they are able to synthesize, that is to break down and then bring that together, and then be able to do the evaluation. Are we teaching our children these steps and stages as we teach concepts in mathematics? Well, I spoke early on about both the formative and summative evaluation and the teaching of mathematics in the different levels. Are we using as far as we can and as practicable concrete material to allow them to better understand the concepts? And these are things we have to do in mathematics, not this big 2-year story to cause results. You can't get results. You can't get results. You have to start from nursery. And that is what, but I'm coming to materials just now. And at secondary level, how much of the abstract teaching are we doing? Or are we still doing concrete teaching? Allowing them to be able to discover the discovery method of teaching and learning. How many of that? Instead of us at this stage as proposed, to provide materials and then to do all these booklets of all these concepts, not by year, but concepts and what have you, I want to strongly believe and I want to make this alleged situation or statement that this here has become a business. It has become a business, and it is becoming a business for friends, family, and favorites who would now provide these bound copies of documents for these schools and children, who would provide materials, who would be the suppliers of these materials, friends, families, and it's becoming a business. The mathematics improvement in grades at CSEC is becoming a business and not a system that should be put in place. And so the payment, why do they not pay if they believe that these grades are so low and unacceptable? Why are they not prepared to pay our mathematics teachers a stipend or a better package so that they can be able to perform? But no, they are not going to do that. They are going to find some worn out person who is accustomed to long ago methodology mathematics concept, still have him or her to guide the mathematics program and pay that person or persons high sums of money and want our teachers to perform as you want them to perform for better grades and are threatening them with what? What are the words here? It says here, with a stern warning that underperforming teachers would be removed. I am saying right now, this here would have become a business. This here is who are going to be the persons providing these materials. And once it is a business, very many persons are going to be part of this friends, family, and favorite business. This is what is going to. But there is a great disparity between or among the performance of schools and in different geographical areas. And we are not looking at performance on the performance, so to speak, in these geographical areas. Our hinterland students, how are we going to be able to cause them to come up to that standard? What is going to be the measurement we are going to use? Or what are going to be the methods and systems we are going to put in place to cause them? Or are we going to allow them to be underperforming without paying them any attention, taking into consideration the billions of dollars we are spending in the education system? It is not fair to those persons who cannot reach and to have education. Is this what we call the delivery of the secondary curriculum? Equitable, so to speak, in every school and every geographical areas in this country? No, it is not working. It is not what the attention is still being paid to a few secondary schools in this country. And of those secondary schools, there are only a few high flyers. And we need to take a look at that very serious situation. And so this big thing about this, what you call pilot project to improve CSEC mathematics performance, it is not going to happen as the plans they have put out. It is a waste of time. It is a waste of money. It is the money not spent in the correct direction or way. And our children in the hinterland areas, deep riverine areas in this country, they would continue to suffer because there is no heed paid to them as it relates to the delivery of the curriculum at the secondary level in an equitable way to cause them to also have good grades at all the subjects at CSEC, to benefit from the numbers of subjects at CSEC. And so this is also concern. While we boast about the billions of dollars we are spending on education each year. And so I want to quickly, in 2070, where we were as it relates to levels of education and the number of schools, and where we would have been in 1970 where we were, and 1979 where we were. In 1970, you would recall that we were 4 years after independence. So we would have inherited. So for the next 9 years, which would take us to 1979, I want to give you very quickly some statistics. In 1970, we had no nursery school in this country, but by 1979, we had 372. In 1970, we had 388 primary schools. In 1979, we had 433 primary schools. Secondary schools were tops. In 1970, we had 13. In 1979, we had 375. Community high schools, in 1970, we had none. In 1979, we were able to have 29. Government schools, which is secondary schools, in 1970, we had 31. In 1979, we had 55. So in 1970, we had 432 schools, and in 1979, we had 1,214. I'm giving you these figures to indicate to you that when the PNC was in government, what were the things we would have done and where we would have moved the number of schools in this country, having taken over in 1966, the year of independence, and at the year of the Republican status where we were when we were a republic. At the time of Republican status, we were 432. And at the time of 1979, 9 years after, we had 1,240 schools. Tremendous achievement. I want to very quickly at this stage turn our attention to something we would have been speaking about and complaints that have been coming to us on this program of an established and unauthorized and illegal mechanical workshop in a residential area. And since May to this month, August, every month a letter would have been written to these agencies, the NIS, National Insurance Scheme, the Guyana Revenue Authority. I'm calling them so that all of us can know. Those of us who live in Guyana and those of us who live in abroad and elsewhere. The Environmental Protection Agency, the Ministry of Labor, and the Guyana Power and Light. These were the 5 agencies that letters would have been directed to as it relates to this illegal and unauthorized mechanical workshop in a residential area. And from May to now, to this date, none of these agencies, having received 4 letters, had any courtesy of responding, 1, and 2, had no duty as it is to date to be able to rectify or remedy or to cause a stop to this very serious situation that is affecting persons. And so as it is, there is tremendous noise pollution, there's dust pollution, and there's chemical pollution. And these, what you call the failure of state enforcement agencies to perform legal and constitutional duties, they have failed this country tremendously. These agencies. So NIS is allowing an illegal and unauthorized mechanical workshop to do work without the necessary NIS being collected. GRA is running all about the place on other persons, especially those employed in the government, are not paying attention here. They would have been written to. The Environmental Protection Agency, the major agency to look at noise, dust, and chemical pollution, have also failed in their duty, although they are receiving state funds, people's money to do their job, and they are not performing it. I'm calling them out. I'm calling out NIS. I'm calling out GRA. The Ministry of Labor in its space every day is seeing the total breakdown of law and order, disrespect for the Health and Safety Act, no signage, no protective gears, child labor, and they turn a blind eye on that. The Environmental Protection Agency, again, I'm calling them out. I'm calling out the Ministry of Labor. I'm calling out right now again for the fifth or sixth time, the Guyana Power and Life, because it might appear as though there are illegal transactions. And if by chance people are paying for domestic consumption, whereas it is commercial, then somebody in GPL or the entire GPL is not doing it. And they receive big sums of money at the last supplemental, and they are not doing their work, but they are receiving state money, government, not government, people's money by not doing what they are supposed to do. These are things that are very painful to people in different communities, and therefore I'm calling them out at this time. I'm now dealing with some matters of the health matters. One, recently, you might have seen in the newspaper or elsewhere, it says, Minister of Health, Guyana has Mpox vaccine if needed. What a statement, if needed. You have the vaccine, but if needed. Maybe somebody is not ready to make money on this vaccine. So if needed at this stage, a very serious illness. And so I bring that to the attention. Time and again, this is the second point on health issue. I have repeatedly said that it is alleged that $500,000 is being paid for the rental of a minibus to do duties at the public hospital study, whereas that facility has adequate and enough of government transportation to do the work. But it is alleged that this sum of $500,000 is being paid for the rental of this minibus. It is alleged that this minibus is somewhere from Perseverance, and somebody said that they name a very reliable person would supply that name, and as soon as that name is given to us, we might see how we coined it to say this will be taken to court. But it is alleged that $500,000. Here again, I'm calling out the Auditor General in this matter because this is an indictment. I'm calling out the officers of the Auditor General Office to look at this matter and for us to be able to bring conclusion to this matter. It is alleged that an industrial site is being established somewhere between Zorg and Colin on the Essequibo coast. And it is further alleged that the senior employee of the Department of Health, Region 2, is the principal, it is alleged, of that industrial site, where a number of things is alleged is being done and contracts are being undertaken, it is alleged. And so it is further alleged that both human and material or capital resources of the Department of Health, Region 2, are used in this project. It is alleged. And therefore, since these things are alleged and they are serious allegations, I am now calling out the PS, Ministry of Local Government and Regional Development, the PS, Ministry of Health, the Regional Administration, Region 2, and the Auditor General and his staff of the Auditor General's office, because these are very serious allegations as made. It is alleged that the senior health official in Region 2, one of them with a fast retirement age some 3 years ago, and is still to be retired and is there and is seeking an extension despite the fact that he or she might not have been retired because with a fast retirement age, but still is seeking re-employment after retirement age, whenever the age would have reached. Try to understand the situation that I would have said. And because these are all allegations that would have been made to us. Further, as it relates to health, the situation at the West Demerara Hospital, as it relates to rats running about the place in wards and on patients, that this situation, it is alleged, is now at Wakenham Cottage Hospital, and the same scenario obtains, and therefore it is the duty for us to call out those who are responsible, including the secondary school dropout who would have been placed in a position maybe to manage and cannot do that because of his level of alleged hostility to persons and maybe because of his inferiority complex, allegedly, and persons are highly qualified. And since he is a secondary school dropout, it might be difficult for him to be able to manage. And so he feels very inferior. And it is alleged that there is bad management. And so it is alleged further that this same gentleman who is a secondary school dropout ordered that rat poison be placed. And this is bringing a very serious situation at the Cottage Hospital at Wakenham and the West Demerara Regional Hospital, where these rats, they go and they die in the tanks and in the gutters and in the wards, and it is very uncomfortable, it is alleged, for persons to work. So we on this program thought it fit that we should be able to now call out the regional administration of Region 3 and the PS Health to look into this matter of concern, matter of public interest, so to speak. We now want to deal with some general issues. General issues. Very quickly, there is a situation that we would have spoken about, which says the pump station at Henrietta, so to speak, it is alleged that that pump station is now used allegedly as a residential accommodation. So I'm calling out Sheikh Baksh, the CEO of Gaiwa, to look at it. We have been calling out, but by popular demand, so to speak, we are still receiving these calls, and we are bringing it to the attention of. Recently, a particular regional executive officer, and I have the letter here from a particular, would have written to persons or a person. Terrible letter. And this person, this RU, when this RU signs, put whatever level of qualification, MA or MSc or what have you, And if that is MSc or MA, with this language on this letter, it is shameful to know that I have behind my name AMS or AMA. And the letter is there to prove bad language, construction, subject and verb, agreement, syntax, and all these kinds of things. Punctuation, long sentences, whether they are complex, compound, what have you. And it is not sending the right message. And the letter is poorly structured. But we await to see what disciplinary action they want to take against this particular worker, because we know they are spreading their cord, and if they get through, they are going to spread it further. We want to bring to your attention for the schooner to Crane four-lane highway that there were 8 bidders. And of these 8 bidders, 5 entire family visa were revoked under investigation by the U.S. authority for money laundering and gold smuggling. One would have been under investigation by the Trinidad authorities for tax evasion and money laundering. So we bring that also very quickly to your attention. And so we want to close by saying that 2 things. The director of NSOR, the director of CPC, there is no position like that in the Ministry of Education. There is a principal of the Sarasota College of Education, not a director. This Ministry of Education seems to be putting persons to position and position to persons, so to speak, without considering there is an authorized inventory of the Ministry of Education. And they are deflecting and moving away from that because of them wanting to employ friends, families, and favorites without verifying their level of qualifications. And that is cause of concern. And the last thing I want to say, that I'm repeating, that persons are alleging that persons who live overseas and come to Guyana one time a year for 2 or 3 days, they are told when old age pension books are distributed. They come, give a Guyana address, they collect that book, they sign it off allegedly, and give somebody to collect their money or put it in a bank allegedly. And so this is the situation. So we need to take, I'm calling out the Minister Vidya Pasad, that is her name, whichever ministry, and so she needs to take a good account of that. And as I say, there is the last thing, this is the last one out. This is the last one I want to bring to your attention. And this one is noise nuisance by an alleged so-called businessman in the area of Anna Regina. The last time I didn't call the area. That is playing dominoes at his premises, disturbing the environment, the people around his environment. And he traverses, or he comes to the Anna Regina car park to do his business, and he is again polluting the place with noise by music, loud music, and it is cause of concern. The police at the Anna Regina police station would have been so advised, but they have never done anything. And we need to take a look at these front organizations that use state resources to go and do campaign work for the PPP, covering under these agencies or these organizations that you call the Rotary Club, the Lions Club, and all these things. The Auditor General, you need to take a serious look at that because it is happening. and it is not alleged, it is happening. And therefore, at this stage, we want to say how grateful we are to you, the viewers, for supporting this program, for watching this program, for joining us. Continue to be kind and good to us. This program tonight would continue next week at next Wednesday from 6:30 to 20 hours. And we want to say tonight that we are grateful. We want to thank you and have a good night, and may God bless you until next week when we meet at the same time for this program. Thank you very much.